What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Jericho Report Weekly News Briefing. It is Sunday, the 25th of September, 2022. Another week has gone by, and does anybody else feel like we're just standing right on the edge of the abyss? I apologize if I'm a little out of it in this report. I've been up for 3 days trying to prepare this thing, try to put together a report that makes some sort of sense, and it's just crazy madness. So if you enjoy these reports, please consider supporting me on Patreon or directly with DonorBox. The links are at the bottom. I appreciate any support. We're going to have to buy some coffee. Anyway, as always, the first link below will take you over to the Patreon post. That's where you find all the madness. We're just going to jump right into it. New COVID variant, be advised, BF7 spreading rapidly, could dominate within weeks. I'll put a link to this new COVID variant. Chinese warned not to touch foreigners. They're actually worried about people coming in with monkeypox. Isn't that ironic? Put a link to that. The Gates Foundation is researching how to manipulate you into taking the future COVID vaccines. Oh, don't you want? Come on, you know you want to take it. Come on, come over here. The CDC director is pushing it. She tweeted out on September 22nd. Look at this. Today I received an updated COVID-19 vaccine. Laboratory data suggests these updated vaccines provide increased protection against currently circulating variants. It's safe and effective. She might want to read the replies under her tweet. I'll put a link to that. This guy here is reporting 53,000 excess deaths in July. Let me just play a little bit of this for you.
We're looking at excess deaths today. This is a phenomenon all over the world at the moment. And what prompted me to do this is the European Union has just published data showing that deaths are 16% higher than we would expect. And the vast majority of these are not COVID deaths. So we've got a great increase in non-COVID deaths.
And what's causing this? I don't know. Unexplained death. More people have been dying this year due to irregular heartbeat, official figures suggest. Irregular heartbeat. What could be causing that? From Sky News. Here is a GLP thread normalizing that children have heart attacks regularly to cover up mass. I'm not even going to say that. 12-year-olds. The next look at this. Let's look at some of these headlines. The Epoch Times. Nationwide surge in deaths among aged 18 to 49. RTE. Exercise may increase risk of heart attacks. We've seen all this stuff before. This is another thread full of stuff here. 3 high school died sudden cardiac arrest. 300,000 people facing heart-related illness due to post-pandemic stress disorder. Post-pandemic stress disorder. This thread goes on and on. I'll put a link to it if you want to just roll over the headlines. Let me play you a little bit of what Naomi Wolf is saying these days.
Women will understand how tragic this is. Pfizer took those deaths of babies, those spontaneous abortions and miscarriages, and recategorized them as recovered, resolved adverse effects. In other words, if you lost your baby, it was categorized by Pfizer as a resolved adverse event, like a...
Miss CDC Director Lady, you have something you want to say? Other news going on, let's get into Joe Biden news. House Democrats kill resolution to investigate Hunter Biden. Of course they do. Joe Biden gets lost again this week. Look at this. Look how much time he spends wandering around the state. Look at this. Am I supposed to go over here? What? Gato, Mr. Roboto? Here? No. Watch this. It goes on for a while.
Mr. President, thank you.
Mr. President,
At the end of such a momentous event,
you want me to come over there?
Thank you seems kind of inadequate.
Should I go over here?
For all the millions,
let me pull out my card and see what I got to do. Okay, I'm going to go this way. I mean, and look at this. Biden stuns crowd into utter bewilderment after saying, I'm just going to play you what he said. Listen to this.
You gotta say hi to me.
Say hi to me.
We go back a long way.
Go back a long way.
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
And I got one more at the bottom in the general bin. Crisis of crimes. New Orleans becomes the murder capital of America, beating out St. Louis. And that's just some of the stuff I had in the general bin this week. I mean, I had like a list like this long. It took me like hours and hours to condense it down. I tried to give you a report in 20 minutes. If I give you everything, I'm going to be talking all day. Anyway, over to financial news. How major U.S. stock indexes fared on the Friday. The Dow fell 486 on the Friday. For the week, the Dow was down 1,200 points. It was down 1,000 last week. Let's see. It's actually below 30,000 there. Where did it end up here? 29,590. Dow below. We were talking Dow 36,000 at one point. Now it's 29. Put a link to the market recap data. Fed rate hike could add 2.1 trillion to federal deficits. That has to do with the markets falling this week. The Fed rates going up again. Russia stock exchange crashes as mobilization rumors swirl. Wait till you see the World War III, Ben. I'll put a link to that. British pound falls to its lowest level against the dollar since 1985. That's CNBC. Atlanta Fed announces negative third quarter growth, third quarter in a row. Things are going down, down, down. Is that why Walmart and other major retailers are canceling billions in orders as summer comes to an end? Or are they anticipating a dark winter? I'll put a link to the Zero Hedge. Massachusetts Energy Company, speaking of winter, Massachusetts Energy Company has announced 64% increase in electricity rates. Yeah, I got a letter, you probably can't see it because I got my brightness up too high, from Spire, which provides our gas service here in St. Louis, saying, oh yeah, this is a pamphlet saying how your rates are going to go up here shortly. So it's happening in St. Louis too. Put a link to this. Let's see, housing bubble woes, home builders cut prices, pile in incentives amid plunging traffic, people not buying houses. But if you're in Denver and you're homeless, you might get some monies. Denver allocates $2 million in taxpayer funds to provide homeless women, trans and non-binary people $12,000 in no strings attached cash as a last-ditch effort to lift them. They're just giving away, but you have to be, the majority of it is going to go to non-binary and trans people. Put a link to this from the Daily Mail. Doing the same thing in Chicago. It's crazy on many levels. Cook County, which is the Chicago area, has launched its free money universal basic income program. So if you're in Chicago, sign up to get some free shit. McDonald's CEO warns that more companies will leave Chicago. Do you think that giving people free money isn't going to make crime go up? You think all of the people that are on drugs and doing the crime aren't going to be the ones signing up for the free money? Yes, they're talking about pulling out. Speaking of Chicago, mayor who pushed to defund police by $80 million pleads with feds to help with rampant crime. Oh, she wants help. How did that get in there? Doesn't that just explain things? I mean, I always thought she looked like E.T. It's not a racial thing. It's an extraterrestrial thing. Anyway, over to New World Order and Police State News. This is where I stop and ask you to please share this report. There's shit going on people need to know about. Pessimistic message from Bill Gates. We are in a worse place than I expected. Oh, he looks worse. But Bill, don't fret. Your vaccine, your depopulation program is only just beginning. It's only just kicking off, Bill. I mean, you don't get all distraught. He's talking about the plans of the New World Order for, Agenda 2030 aren't going to encourages world leaders to keep up the pressure to bring in the New World Order. We won't back down. Major CEO claims anti-woke backlash is incredibly dangerous for the world. All these people speaking out against these things. Just shut up and do as you're told, slaves. That from the Daily Caller. That's exactly what it is. In a 60-minute interview, Biden admits the pandemic is over, but he won't give up his emergency. Hell no, he won't give up his. There'll be another emergency right along. And by the way, there's a hurricane coming into the south. There'll be another emergency coming on where they just keep these dictatorial powers in place that most people don't even know about or know that they're in place. Let's go back in time. Somebody asked me about this on my last video. Let's go back to Get Your Shot or Get on the Bus. This is from 2009, right around the time NLE 09. And back then we were looking at the, H1N1? And they didn't push that nearly as hard. I mean, I would say they've made a lot of progress on the forced, roll up your sleevers, wouldn't you? If you need to remind yourself things that are still in place, I guarantee you, pull that up and watch that video. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. The Phoenix Police Department, speaking of the New World Order, wants to let you know that the U.S. Army will be training in the city. Here's a bunch of shit we saw under Obama. Did we even see any of this under Trump? Were there military training in cities under Trump? Now it's back under Biden. Remember the military training in cities all over America to prepare the troops for combat overseas? Bullshit. Martial law drills, be advised. Cops taking property from innocents legitimate. South Carolina Supreme Court rules. The cops can just take your shit and not charge you with a crime. Throw that in there. Texas sheriff opens criminal probe into DeSantis' operation to fly migrants to Martha's Vineyard in immigration news. Meanwhile, Trump is pissed off because he says DeSantis sold my plan. That from the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones. Migrants sue Florida governor. They're not happy. I'm sorry. Did you have a non-pleasant flight on your way to Martha's Vineyard on the taxpayer's dime? Get the hell out of here. I'll put a link to that. DHS intelligence report reveals Venezuela is emptying their prisons and sending dangerous convicts to the U.S. border. No doubt. Who knows? The border's wide open, baby. Who knows what's coming into this country? Who knows what, false flags ahead. That's all I can say. I put a link to that from the Gateway Pundit. We got one more from the Gateway Pundit. Look at this. They can't win if they don't cheat. Look, House Democrats vote to give illegal, all these people coming in can vote for the next president. Isn't that amazing? I'll put a link to that. How did he get away with it? Nobody who's going to stand up and stop him. And I got one at the bottom. Let's check in with the Republic of Ireland on how multiculturalism is happening over there.
Here in our towns and cities is gone. All this weird, diverse multiculturalism, inclusion nonsense.
Nonsense indeed. Utter madness all around the world. Over to World War III news. Holy shit, people. I almost put an Operation Blackjack video. I'm sorry, I just realized my radio's over here chirping away, and it's probably annoying. I almost put on an Operation Blackjack video this week, but it wasn't quite lining up with the blackjack. You know, Russia really wasn't named in the whole Blackjack Jericho scenario. So, but it's much worse because we're not just talking about Jericho. We're talking about potential for World War III. Vladimir Putin unhinged. Well, this is propaganda, of course. Putin makes threat to nuke the West, declares, I'm not bluffing, in chilling address. He's talking about using nuclear weapons for real. Shit is getting real, people. I think it's just a matter of time before somebody pushes a button, I'm telling you. Russian nukes can be used to defend annexed Ukraine regions. The Kremlin warns that from Zero Hedge. We got Russian defense minister announces Russia's losses. They're taking huge losses in Ukraine. Why wouldn't they use a nuclear weapon to try to level things back off? Russia has no reserves left as Ukrainian troops surround key eastern town. Put a link to that. Well, I mean, it's... America will retaliate in a devastating strike against Russia's Black Sea fleet bases in Crimea. Putin follows through on threat to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. I don't know what to say, people. Prepare yourselves. Check your preps. The full $16 billion list of what Biden has already given to Ukraine to start World War III. Put a link to that blacklisted news. Another one here. Serbian president warns of great world conflict within 2 months. This come out September 22nd. Within 2 months, he's saying that from Zero Hedge. Poland distributes iodine pills as fears grow over Ukraine nuclear plant, putting the advised from Reuters. Biden tells 60 Minutes U.S. troops would defend Taiwan against China, but the White House says it's not official U.S. policy. Well, he can do whatever he wants, you know, dictatorial powers and all. Just declare an emergency. Scientists in America's top nuclear lab were recruited by China to design missiles and drones, report says. I don't know, that from NBC News. A couple more here. Unvaccinated Air Force officers grounded despite court order, former Space Force Lieutenant Colonel says. But in other news, I did report last week that the SEALs dropped their requirement. Now, U.S. Marine Corps quietly drops punishments for refusing COVID vaccine. That's another reason why they may go weapons hot at any moment, because their whole bullshit agenda is kind of falling apart on that front, is it not? I mean, it's over 2 earth changes in 2012 news. Just a flurry of earthquakes this week. Look at this. We had a 6.1 on the 23rd, 6.4 on the 23rd, 6.9 on the 22nd, 6.0 on the 20th, big 7.7 North Pacific Ocean on the 19th, and a 6.9 on the 18th. I'll put a link to the earthquake there. The earth is rocking and rolling. In volcano news, we had Mexico earthquake, sets off volcano. Put a link to this from the Mexico Daily Post. Big volcano going off in Mexico. Hurricane Fiona, we had this thing that ran across, what was it, Puerto Rico down there. Now it's headed up, it's far out into the ocean. It's headed up the East Coast. I think it said it's going to make landfall in Canada. Put a link to that. That thing knocked out power and flooded a bunch of stuff. It took down a bridge with its flooding. Here's a bridge going down in Puerto Rico. Put a link to that. Thoughts to the people. The whole of Puerto Rico was out of power, man. Japan storm over on the other side of the world. Millions told to evacuate as a typhoon makes landfall. Put a link to that from BBC News. And we do have another hurricane that's coming into the Gulf. I don't have a link to it, but they're saying it's going to hit Florida, the Keys possibly. I hate that because I love the Keys. Possibly Wednesday, Thursday, Friday-ish. So keep an eye on that. Steelworkers killed in Tuesday fire and explosion at BP refinery in Oregon. Big refinery fire. They got some video there if you want to check it out. I saw some live video of what was going on. California looks to ban diesel-powered trucks, speaking of gas, to rectify decades of race. I don't know what makes it racist. I looked into the story. It just doesn't make sense. But how are you going to make diesel-powered trucks? You have any idea how much power it takes just to make a Tesla go? And you're going to make electric cargo trucks? Like, where are you going to get the power for this bullshit anyway? Look at this. German wind turbines on strike. I just thought this was funny. Chances are there's no wind, but I just kind of laughed at it. Like if the wind turbines all said, we quit, we're not working today. I don't know. I just thought it was funny in the moment. Put a link to that. Let's see. In space, we got despite tensions, NASA astronaut joins Russian cosmonauts for flight to the space station. Okay. I agree there shouldn't be war in space, but you know, there's weaponizing space. So NASA is ready to knock an asteroid off course. Speaking of a weapon, which, you know, it could be I don't know. Take it for what you will. Scientists find extraterrestrial water inside meteorite that crashed over the UK last year. E.T. phone home. Give me my water. And former military policeman makes shocking deathbed confession that he helped fake the moon landing. Interview there. I don't know. Over to strange and bizarre news. I hope you guys don't mind if I play some video for you this week. I got some stuff to play. You're not going to believe some of the shit that went down this week. First off, we got man admits to killing teen he claimed was Republican extremist. Now, if it was the other way around, they would want to lock up Trump for his, can we blame Biden for, because he's talking about, no, probably not. Let's see. Look, speaking of propaganda, look at, now I thought this meme was really funny. Did you guys see this Kamala Harris meme where like she's greeting a bus that just pulls up in front of her house and they're like playing Mexican music and stuff? Apparently somebody got offended by this. Let me show you what this guy did. I love the meme. I think that's hilarious. He didn't think so. Okay, we got fight breaking out at the food bar. Older white people fighting over food. I don't know what's going on here. Madness. This is what happens when you eat unhealthy food. Put a link to that. I don't know. Crazy. Beyond Meat. Speaking of food, Beyond Meat COO Doug Ramsey arrested for allegedly biting man's nose. Well, Beyond Meat. It makes sense to me. Midget goes berserk in convenience store is exactly how it sounds. If you haven't seen this, let's watch this together.
I need water right here. Nigga.
Fill that bag up right now. He proceeds to go. Watch this. Here we go. Take it. He swigs the 40, right? Bam!
Ooh. Fill that bag up. Right now! The police coming, homie.
They treat him very well, actually. Come here, little guy. Meanwhile, over at the Amazon building.
Get up, Kai. Get up, Kai. Beat his.
There's disturbance in the lunchroom. This woman here walks in and there's some stranger laying on her kid's bed.
Mother tells us she ignored them for a minute because no one rang the bell.
This is going on in Portland?
But ring cam video shows that's because the intruder walked right in. Smith says she decided to investigate when her dogs kept barking, thinking it might have been a mouse.
That's what's happening in Portland. People just walking in and going to sleep in some stranger's house. If you're familiar with St. Louis, the Courtesy Diner on Hampton was shot up all over the place. They shot out all the windows because of a dine and dash went wrong. I'll put a link to that craziness in St. Louis. Oh, I got to play this one for you, too. They're just trying to put some air in their tire. Remember last week I gave you the one with the girl with the gasoline? This is just as stupid. Not quite as hazardous.
What are you doing? Huh?
What are you doing?
What are you doing with that?
We're trying to figure out how to put gas in the car.
She's right the first time. We're trying to figure out how to put gas in the car.
I'm trying to gas, but it's in the tire. Can you help me instead of taking video?
You know what that is?
No.
That's propane.
Oh, shit. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
Hank Hill would be so disappointed. Video shows, oh, I gotta play this one too. Okay, let me set the stage for you. See this police car that stopped on this, cop pulls lady over, suspicion of mischief or some shit. She pulls over just after some train tracks. The cop stops on the tracks. You have to watch what happens next. With the suspect handcuffed in the police car.
Officers were trying to stop a pickup truck for allegedly being involved in a road rage incident. Moments later, a woman, Yareni Rios Gonzalez, is out of the trunk.
What's going on?
She's then placed in the back seat of a Platteville patrol car. Then a train whistle can be heard. An officer seen scrambling. Then the train hits the patrol car with Gonzalez in the back seat.
Park your police car on the... This doesn't even make sense. I'll put a link to it. I'm sorry for running on so long. Some of this stuff I just gotta show you. This school here allows teachers to wear a safe space badge with QR code. When it's scanned, it takes children to inappropriate, sexually explicit websites. I'll put a link. I got a video report on that. And a Canadian high school, says it is illegal to criticize a trans teacher with huge prosthetic breasts, and it's claimed disturbed students are skipping her classes, and the school board is refusing to address. Okay, let's see what they're talking about. Yeah, you shouldn't criticize that at all. Right. Anyway, I'll put a link to my favorites. Head over there for more news. That's all the news I had. Train hits police car. There's the full video if you want to check it out. From the traffic stop, from multiple angles, from dash cams and body cams. It's all in that video. Demcad's got one over there talking about mobilization of 300,000 troops. That's the Putin thing. We had report finds no evidence of a climate emergency. Put a link to that. Some of this is from last week. I'll put a link. Anyway, I put a link to my favorites. Thank you to people who keep putting out videos, keep people informed. You guys are doing awesome. I got some shout outs this week, and I got a couple more videos that I have to play because it's very important to close out my report. Shout out to NYPD cop can't be fired for not having COVID vaccine. Shout out to at least one judge in New York who's got it right. Now they're talking about the departments appealing this and all, but for now it's like a small victory for, what about all of the firefighters and paramedics and, officers and people across this country, first responders, public workers who were forced into a position where they have to do this or they're fired. At least there's one judge. So shout out to that judge in Manhattan. Shout out to this nurse. I got to play you just a little bit. You need to listen to what this nurse is talking about, man. And share this. Share these. And yeah, I'm going to call it out. Where are all you other nurses? All the nurses are the backbone of the whole thing. Where are all of the other nurses who have not stood up? So you might lose your job. You're a nurse. Did you not become a nurse to help people? And you're watching this shit go down. Listen to what this woman's saying.
I took care of those children who came in with myocarditis after the vaccine. And I talked to the doctors because I was a charge nurse, saying, why aren't we reporting these to VAERS? Who is going to report these to VAERS? It was an unspoken thing that we were not allowed to talk about openly on the unit.
They're not allowed to report it. They're not allowed to talk about it.
15 years in this community, taking care of some of the sickest patients. The day before I was taken away from my position, I was actively giving compressions to a child, pushing Abby.
Shout out to this guy for telling the truth about why the mainstream media doesn't tell the truth. This is the truest thing I've heard in years right here. Listen.
MSNBC, NBC, even Fox. People that have, gotten used to getting their information from these pundits and not paying attention to those commercials, between their news programs to tell you who's paying them.
Who pays the advertising dollar? Just listen to what this man says.
You could go ahead and say it's illegal for pharmaceutical industry to advertise on television. You would watch this story change tomorrow. You would watch reporters start telling you the truth. You would start watching your news anchors cover this issue. But they can't because their boss and the person writing their check is the one who's making $10, $20, $30 billion off of a vaccine.
That's why you will never get the truth from mainstream media. But we all know this. I'm preaching to the choir. That's all I got for this week, guys. If you like the report, please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you think it sucked, it's the worst you never want to see again, please rate, though. It helps it move around. You can also support me on Patreon or DonorBox. I put a lot into these reports. I've been up for 3 days preparing this one. Follow me at all my links, too, in case this video goes missing. Follow me on Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Gab. All the links are at the bottom. Please tell me your thoughts. I'm sorry for going on for so long. And when I'm really tired, I get more talkative, and it's just like I got all this energy built up from reading the headlines all week, and I just want to tell you about it, tell you what's going on. The shit going on in this world, man. The shit we talked about for years and years and years. You go back and revisit like the Time Wave Zero stuff and the WebBot project stuff from years ago, and then you compare it to what's happening right now. Keep truth in your heart. You guys take care, stay safe. Thank you for hanging out with me for a few minutes on a Sunday. I love you very much. Have a good rest of the weekend. Have a good week. I'll see you on the